It's been one of the most contentious issues in politics, research on stem cells from human embryos. It's also a legal minefield for those biotech companies that are developing the technology. We're going to talk with the general counsel of one of those companies. Well, just ahead on In Focus, our in-house counsel segment, we will talk with the general counsel of biotech firm involved in stem cell research. Plus, Dow Chemicals hoping to reverse a slide in North American sales. We're going to talk to the CEO next. Well, every week at this time, we talk to an in-house legal counsel and find out the hot topic that's on their minds. President Bush has banned federal funding for study at all but a limited number of embryonic cell lines. These regulations have actually spurred nonprofit groups and limited state fund initiatives. And Advanced Cell Technology is a biotech company that researches treatments for human embryonic stem cells. Jonathan Atzen, or John Atzen, is with us now to talk about some of the legal hurdles and the company like Advanced Cell faces daily. He's a senior vice president and general counsel at Advanced Cell, and he's joining us from Los Angeles. John, welcome to In Focus today.
Thank you, Monica.
You know, as we mentioned about the difficulty for you to operate in this type of environment for your company, where are some of these federal regulations and why so many now? What's the big hurdle?
Really, the difficulty in our business right now from a regulatory perspective, Monica, deals with the lack of federal regulation or leadership at the federal level. What we're really faced with now is the states filling in on the regulatory side in terms of funding and as well as regulations that kind of guide this research, the derivation and use of these materials. So it really is, at this stage, sort of a state effort that we deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Let's talk about that state effort, because California in particular has approved a 2004 initiative. Let me see, it's called the California Institute for Regenerative Medicine. It approved about $3 billion over 10 years, mostly for embryonic cell research. Other states are supportive as well. I know Massachusetts is one of them.
That's true. Interestingly enough, and probably not by coincidence, Monica, we're headquartered in California, and we have a very important facility in Massachusetts as well, two of the states that you mentioned, two of the states that I believe are the most progressive and have the most lead time and leadway into these regulations. So we're operating in that regulatory climate.
John, do you see any states becoming more supportive?
There are. A lot of them in the eastern seaboard, Monica. We've got initiatives in New York, in Connecticut, right across the border from Massachusetts, Illinois as well. This is really a groundswell. It's a state effort, in terms of funding particularly, that has taken the place of efforts at the federal level that just not have taken effect yet.
Yeah, when it comes to that in particular, the hurdles, even in California and Massachusetts, I'm wondering, what are you still facing in those two places that even are friendly to this type of research?
Well, in California, Monica, what we've got is we've started to get the funding and that bond measure moving forward. Right now, we're working off of interim funding, private funding that is sort of supplanting the larger $3 billion measure. So we really want to see that moving forward in California. In Massachusetts, interestingly enough, some of the non-funding regulatory work, actually the use and derivation regulations regarding the materials we work on, is actually, there's an interesting turn for the positive in that those regulations are now being clarified more as to how we actually conduct research on those materials. So a really positive, I think, environment in both states, but certainly challenges as these regulations become more defined and as they get regulations are actually drafted. What
other funding legislation are you following in other states?
I would say primarily we follow all the funding legislation because it's very important to know which states we can possibly move into or have collaborations with. So right now, the ones I mentioned, New York, Connecticut, Illinois in particular, are all states that I think are very close to and moving along the lines that California has as well, including Massachusetts.
Of course, as we mentioned, sort of paying for the tissue or embryo seems to be sort of the biggest hurdle. You know, anywhere do you see that coming down the line as getting over that hurdle anytime soon? I guess what's the time frame that you're even looking at, or the company at Advanced Cell?
I wouldn't say there's necessarily a time frame. Let me make one comment. These are very precious tissues and cells that we work with. So regulations that are designed to have an impact on the quality and the control of those materials are important. And there are controls related to how the materials are donated to a company like ACT, in particular embryos. Those are permitted now. We'd like to see the ability for donations to occur on a regular basis, and we do encourage that. But the laws right now provide for informed consent, and we fully comply with all those, and it's a very top priority for ACT to stay in compliance with those types of issues.
John, just quickly, what about stem cell patent law in general? Can you touch just a little bit on that?
Yeah, it's hard for me not to say the following. It's great to be a lawyer, since it is an in-house segment, in the stem cell industry. And patent law obviously drives our industry. Intellectual property is the key. I get to go to work every day working with brilliant scientists and a great management team on these cutting-edge issues, probably primarily in intellectual property. There's a great landscape of IP out there right now. It's a competitive landscape. We compete in that, I think, aggressively. And all companies, either in the adult stem cell world or in the human embryonic stem cell world, are looking for these therapies which relate to the IP.
John, thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right.